a little farm lived a cute duck family. Mummy Duck was sitting on her eggs waiting for her new ducklings to hatch. There were exactly 7 eggs that were waiting to hatch. One sunny morning, the eggs began to hatch. Soon after, with great joy, the 6 little ducklings began to hatch. The ducklings were trying to adapt to the new world. They were quacking and walking around Mother Duck. However, the largest egg of them all was still trying to hatch, and Mother Duck began to worry. She thought that there might be something wrong. She decided to wait a little while longer. And at last, the 7th and the largest egg hatched. With great confusion, the poor ducklings began to look around. Little did he know his mother and siblings were a bit more confused than he was. Because this duck, in particular, did not look like his siblings. He was built much more broader and had grey and white feathers. The other ducklings began to laugh at him.
What an ugly duckling you are! You look nothing like us.
I don't get it. How come you look nothing like your siblings?
Ugly, 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 ugly.
Sometime later, the ducklings all grew older. But the ugly duckling was much bigger than the others, even the colour of his feathers.
You grew up so fast. How did you turn out to be so different?
Time was passing by, and the ugly duckling was growing up to be a different and sad duck. None of his siblings wanted to play with him.
We won't play with you because you're ugly.
All the other animals on the farm were making fun of him.
Ugly duckling, ugly duckling.
No, 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 ugly duckling, ugly duckling.
Mother Duck, on the other hand, was doing her best in protecting him.
My poor duckling, why are you so different than the others?
As the days passed, the poor ugly duckling was feeling horrible. All night long he would silently cry and think to himself that no one would ever want him.
Why am I so ugly? Why couldn't I turn out to be like my siblings?
One day, some hunters approached the lake near where they lived. The hunters began to hunt the ducks they had seen. Whilst Mother Duck was looking for food for the ducklings, she was caught by the hunters. The poor duckling, not knowing what had been happening, he waited till morning for his mother to return. Poor duckling didn't know what to do. First he went next to the dog, and the dog told him to go.
Go away. No one should see me talking to an ugly duck like you.
A while later, he went next to the chicken, but the chicken also made fun of him.
Even I'm better looking than you.
Ugly Duckling was very sad.
No one wants me here. If my mother isn't coming back, there's absolutely no reason for me to stay on this farm.
That morning, the ugly duckling left the farm. He swam to the other side of the lake. He asked the same question to all the animals he bumped into along the way.
Do you know of any duck that looks like me? Do you know of any ducks that look like me? Do you know of any ducks that look like me?
He received the same answer from all of them. They had never seen such ugly duck before. Poor Duckling began his journey and reached another lake once he was there. He asked the same question to the geese. You mustn't stay here like this. There are hunters around. Quickly get away from here. Go on, now go. The ugly duckling began to move along. Soon after, another lake appeared. This time he was all alone. There was no one to be seen.
Well then, if nobody wants me, I will hide here forever.
Even though he was all alone, he was very happy. One day, he saw a horde of white, long-necked birds migrating to the south. He looked at them with admiration.
How beautiful they are. I wish I could be like them.
Winter had come and snow had begun to fall. The ugly duckling fell in love with the sight of his first ever snow. Playing around, he was covered in white snow. Due to the heavy snow, the ugly duckling was finding it hard to find food. So off he went walking around trying to find food. He was cold and tired. Meanwhile, he came across a farmer. The farmer felt sorry for him and gave his jacket.
You poor thing, how cold you are. I will take you home and look after you until you grow.
The farmer did as he said and took good care of him. When spring had arrived, the ugly duckling had grown. So that he would have free space to move around, the farmer decided to leave him in a lake. All alone once again, after some time had passed, the ugly duckling looked at his reflection in the water. But he was amazed at what he saw. At first, he couldn't recognize himself. He thought there was someone else behind him. So he flipped his wings and noticed that his reflection was doing the same thing. He stretched out his neck and his reflection continued to copy his movements. Right then he knew that this amazing bird was no one other than himself.
Oh, how much I've changed. I look like the birds in the sky. I must return back home and show myself at once.
And off he went. While he was swimming in the lake, he came across a wedge of swans. Because he was one of them now, they took him along. Ugly Duckling was travelling in joy with the swans. A boy at the lake shore yelled out to his friends when he saw the swans.
Hey, look at the young one, all the way back. Must be the most beautiful swan I've seen.
Yes, from the beginning, he indeed was a swan. He was just an unfortunate egg which got mixed up in between the ducks. But now he was with his real family, and ahead of him was a happy life. In a land far, far away, there lived a miller with his 3 sons. When the miller died, he left his oldest sons the mill, and to his youngest son, he left his cat. His younger son got really upset. Unlike his brothers, it was almost impossible for him to get by with the will he had got. He looked at the cat and said to himself, "What can you do with a cat? You can't even eat it." But suddenly, something very unexpected happened. The cat answered back.
You're awfully wrong about me, sir. I can be much more valuable to you than you think.
The young man was stunned to see the cat talking. He asked, stuttering,
How's that possible? If you bring me an empty sack, a hat, and a pair of boots, I will show you how.
With his surprise wearing off, the young man thought to himself, if this cat can talk, he sure might know something.
All right, let's see what you can do.
Young man brought everything the cat had asked for. The cat put the hat on, put his boots on, went to the mirror and looked at himself with pose, then put a bunch of lettuce along with 1 carrot in a sack and took off. When in the wood, he opened the sack and put it on the floor. Not long after, noticing the fresh aroma of the vegetables, a bunny rabbit appeared. In order to eat the lettuce and carrot, the bunny rabbit entered the sack. The cat then quickly ran to the sack, tightly tied it up, and trapped the bunny rabbit in there. Instead of taking the bunny rabbit to its owner, he took it to the castle and told the guards that he'd like to see the king. Seeing a talking cat that's wearing a hat and boots, the guards quickly took him to the king's presence.
Mighty Lord, I present you the gift of the Prince of Caraba. My master, the Prince of Caraba, has caught this bunny rabbit for you just now.
The king was very impressed with this gift. For a very long time, Puss in Boots continued on bringing animals that he caught for the king. And soon after, everybody in the kingdom began to talk about the prince's generosity and wealth. Each passing day, the king's curiosity grew, and so one day he asked Puss in Boots,
Is your highness young?
Oh, young and very handsome indeed.
Is he rich?
Very rich, your highness. He would be honored to welcome you in his castle.
At last, the king and queen were very happy to hear that they were going to meet this very handsome prince.
If what Puss in Boots says is true, I think we might have just found the perfect husband for our daughter and a suitable prince for our kingdom,
said the queen. A few days later, Puss in Boots found out that the king and queen were out on the town with their daughter.
This is the day I've been waiting for.
He ran straight to his owner.
Sir, we have to go to the riverbank right away. Follow me quickly.
The young man did not understand what was going on, but he did, as he was told.
But why did we come here? To swim, sir. To swim? But I don't know how to swim. It's better that you don't. Take off your clothes immediately and get in the river. Trust me, sir, you won't regret it.
Young man did as he was told and went in the river. And Puss in Boots hid his owner's clothes behind the bushes. When the king's carriage was passing next to the river, Puss in Boots ran to them, alarming.
Help! Help! My master Prince of Caraba is drowning!
The king immediately sent his men to the river. When his men were saving the young man, Puss in Boots explained to the king how the thieves had stolen his master's clothes. The king ordered the men next to him.
Bring some of the best clothes we have to the prince.
With his new clothes, the young man looked just like a real prince. When he was walking towards the king's carriage, the princess and the queen were watching him. The young man came next to the king and bowed before him.
I can't thank you enough. My master, the Prince of Caraba, will be honored to host you in his castle, my king. I'll go now and prepare.
Puss in Boots quickly ran off. The young man did not really understand why he was called the Prince of Caraba, but again he thought that Puss in Boots was up to something, and kept silent. The princess immediately fell in love with this handsome prince. While running fast to a castle that belonged to a monstrous giant, Puss was yelling to the farmers that worked along the way.
The king is approaching. If he asks, you will say that all this land belongs to the Prince of Caraba, or else he will punish you.
Puss in Boots was running, and at the same time he was repeating the same to everyone he saw along the way. While the king's carriage passed along the way, everyone kept saying the same thing out of fear. The king was surprised that the prince owned such vast amount of land, but he was happy nonetheless. Meanwhile, Puss in Boots arrived to the giant's castle and knocked the door. The door opened with a big noise. When he saw a cat in boots with a hat, the giant was very surprised. When Puss in Boots started to talk, the giant was surprised even more.
Good day, Your Highness.
Who are you and what are you doing in my castle?
Puss in Boots started to implement his plan.
Well, let me put it to you this way, Your Highness. I am the king's loyal servant. The king has told me much about your amazing abilities on magic.
Yes, that is right.
For example, are you able to transform yourself into a huge lion?
Sure I can. This is very easy for me.
Using his amazing magic, the giant transformed into a huge lion. Puss in Boots got very frightened, of course, and jumped as high as he could.
Okay. That's enough.
The giant transformed back to his normal self.
That was amazing. I bet it's impossible for you to transform into any small animal, though. I'm not sure. What do you say?
Impossible? I can transform into any animal I want.
Let me say... Can you transform into a small mouse?
The giant was laughing so loud that Puss was having trouble staying in the same spot. And so the giant used his magical strength and transformed into a mouse. Seeing the giant transformed into a mouse, Puss quickly jumped on the mouse, and with a big bite, he got rid of the giant. Meanwhile, the king's carriage approached the giant's castle, and Puss quickly ran towards the king.
Your Highness, my lord, the Prince of Caraba's castle is at your service. Please come in.
The king, queen, princess, and of course the young man gazed at the castle with admiration. While walking towards the castle, the queen asked the young man, "My dear prince, are you married?"
No, Your Highness. If you would allow me to wed your beautiful daughter, I promise you that I will make her very happy.
A huge feast was prepared at the giant's castle, and the prince and the princess got engaged. Soon after, they got married.
Do you see, sir? I told you how valuable I was going to be.
From that day on, Puss in Boots continued to be the prince's loyal servant. Together, they lived a very rich and healthy life.